There is a quiet moment many people notice sometime after the age of 60. It does not arrive loudly. It appears slowly, perhaps when climbing stairs feels slightly heavier than before, when lifting groceries requires a pause, or when standing up from a chair demands just a little more effort. It is not weakness in the dramatic sense. It is simply the body whispering that time is moving forward. For centuries, people believed this change was inevitable. Aging meant muscles would fade, strength would disappear, and the body would gradually surrender its vitality. But modern science has begun to challenge that belief. Researchers studying the biology of aging have discovered something remarkable. The human body retains an extraordinary ability to rebuild muscle even late in life. The muscles of a 70-year-old, an 80-year-old, and sometimes even a 90-year-old can still grow stronger under the right conditions. And surprisingly, this transformation does not always require complicated workouts, expensive gym memberships, or intense athletic training. Doctors and physiologists increasingly point to one simple movement, the humble act of standing up and sitting down repeatedly, as one of the most powerful natural signals the body can receive to rebuild muscle. To understand why this single movement matters so much, we first need to understand what happens inside the aging body. Muscle loss after the age of 60 is known in medical science as sarcopenia. It is not merely cosmetic. It is a biological process where muscle fibers shrink, motor neurons become less active, and the body's internal repair mechanisms slow down. By the time many adults reach their 70s, they may have lost up to 30% of the muscle mass they once had. But muscle tissue is not passive. It is highly intelligent. Muscle cells communicate constantly with hormones, nerves, and metabolic signals throughout the body. When muscles contract against resistance, even mild resistance, they send biochemical messages that activate a powerful repair system called muscle protein synthesis. In simple terms, the body begins rebuilding muscle fibers stronger than before. This process does not disappear with age. What changes is the intensity of the signal required to activate it. Young people receive these signals naturally through daily activity. Running, lifting, climbing, playing, their bodies constantly trigger muscle rebuilding. But as people age, lifestyles often become quieter. Chairs replace movement. Elevators replace stairs. Convenience replaces physical effort. The body begins interpreting this stillness as a message. Strength is no longer necessary. And so the muscles begin to fade. Yet something fascinating happens when older adults begin performing a simple repeated movement like standing up and sitting down from a chair. This movement activates some of the largest muscles in the human body, the quadriceps, glutes, and core stabilizers. These muscles are not small decorative tissues. They are metabolic engines responsible for balance, mobility, and independence. When they contract repeatedly, they send a strong biological signal that the body interprets as demand. Demand creates adaptation. Studies in geriatric physiology have shown that older adults who perform chair stands regularly can significantly increase leg strength, improve balance, and even enhance bone density. What is remarkable is that this improvement often occurs within weeks. It is not magic. It is biology responding exactly as it was designed to. Inside each muscle fiber are tiny structures called mitochondria, the power generators of the cell. With age, mitochondrial efficiency declines. Energy production drops, fatigue increases, and muscles feel weaker. But muscle contraction stimulates mitochondrial renewal. Each time someone stands up from a chair and sits back down, the body experiences a small but meaningful challenge. Blood flow increases. Oxygen delivery rises. Hormonal signals activate tissue repair. Even the nervous system begins to reawaken dormant pathways that control movement. Doctors sometimes describe this as waking the muscles back up. But there is another dimension to this process that is often overlooked: the psychological and philosophical relationship between movement and vitality.
Human being évolvait da moving créature.
Our ancestors walked miles each day, climbed hills, lifted objects, and navigated unpredictable terrain. The human skeleton, muscles, and joints developed under constant motion. Movement was not exercise. Movement was life. When the body stops moving, the brain interprets it as a signal that the environment no longer requires strength or resilience. The nervous system becomes conservative with energy. Muscles become smaller because the body believes they are unnecessary. But when movement returns, even simple movement, the brain revises that assumption. The body begins preparing for activity again. Standing up and sitting down repeatedly may appear trivial, but biologically it represents a powerful signal. The organism is still engaged with the world. Physicians working in longevity research often emphasize that the goal of movement in later life is not athletic performance. It is functional strength, the ability to rise from a chair, walk confidently, maintain balance, and continue living independently. These abilities depend heavily on the muscles of the hips and thighs. And those muscles are precisely the ones activated during chair stands. When this movement is performed slowly and deliberately, it creates gentle resistance. Gravity becomes the weight the muscles must overcome. Unlike heavy gym equipment, this resistance is natural and self-regulated. If the body is tired, the movement slows. If the body grows stronger, the movement becomes smoother. This self-adjusting nature makes the exercise particularly safe for older adults. Researchers have also discovered another unexpected benefit. Repeated standing movements improve insulin sensitivity. Muscles act like sponges that absorb glucose from the bloodstream during contraction. For older adults, this means regular chair stands can help regulate blood sugar levels and support metabolic health. In other words, strengthening muscles may also protect the heart, the brain, and the entire metabolic system. But perhaps the most profound change occurs not in the muscles themselves, but in confidence. Many people over 60 begin avoiding movement because they fear falling or injury. This avoidance creates a cycle. Less movement leads to weaker muscles, which leads to greater instability, which then increases fear. Chair stands gently break that cycle. Each successful repetition becomes a message to the brain: the body is still capable. Confidence returns step by step, movement by movement. And slowly, a person who once felt fragile begins to rediscover a sense of physical trust. Modern neuroscience also tells us that muscle contraction releases signaling molecules known as myokines. These molecules travel through the bloodstream and influence organs throughout the body. Some myokines reduce inflammation. Others support brain health. One of them even appears to stimulate the growth of new neural connections in the hippocampus, a region involved in memory. So a simple movement like standing up from a chair may be doing far more than strengthening legs. It may be nourishing the brain. There is something deeply poetic about this biological truth. The body does not demand extraordinary effort to begin healing. It simply asks for participation. A few movements repeated each day can awaken systems that have been quiet for years. Muscle fibers begin thickening again. Nerves communicate more efficiently. Blood vessels expand to nourish tissues. The body remembers its original design. And perhaps this is the most hopeful discovery modern aging science offers. Decline is not always a one-way road. Yes, time changes the body. But the body remains remarkably adaptable throughout life. Even small acts of movement can reshape physiology. Imagine an older adult beginning each morning with a simple routine: sitting in a sturdy chair, standing up slowly, pausing for a breath, and sitting down again. 5 repetitions become 10. 10 become 15. Within weeks, the legs feel more stable. Within months, walking feels easier. Within a year, the body has quietly rebuilt strength that once seemed lost.
Nos dramatiques transformations.
No heroic struggle. Just a steady dialogue between movement and biology. And perhaps this is where science and philosophy meet. Aging is often portrayed as a story of loss. Loss of youth, loss of strength, loss of speed. But the deeper truth revealed by physiology is more subtle. Aging is a negotiation. The body constantly asks a question: what do you need me to be capable of? If the answer is stillness, the body adapts to stillness. If the answer is movement, the body adapts to movement. Standing up from a chair may seem like the smallest possible declaration of that intention. But biologically, it is profound. It tells the muscles to rebuild. It tells the nerves to reconnect. It tells the brain that the body is still part of an active life. And in that simple act, repeated day after day, the body begins quietly reversing the story it once believed about aging. Not by resisting time, but by reminding the body what it was designed to do: move.